Hello, 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 hello. You're welcome to this webinar. So good to see you. Um, Thank you so much for joining me tonight. And if you're watching this at a later time, if you're not watching it live, I welcome you to this amazing webinar where I will be discussing the science of sleep. Sleep is very vital, sleep is very important, and I will be discussing that hopefully in the next few hours as I explore the different aspects of sleep. So you're welcome, you're welcome, you're welcome. Please make use of the chat room and you can send me messages and I'll try as much as possible to engage. But today I will be talking about the science of sleep and I will be going through some very important details because your performance as an individual is tied to your sleep, and if you're not able to have good quality sleep, you will find that your performance is suboptimal. So if you're going to be healthy, if you're going to um, be um, if you're going to be balanced and if you're going to be productive as an individual, you'll need to find a way to prioritize sleep and you need to find a way to optimize your sleep so that you can produce results. So today, yes, I will be talking about the science of sleep. And in my usual style, I will be sharing slides. I've got quite a number of slides to share. So please, you follow me whichever platform that you're on, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's Facebook, whether it's on LinkedIn, wherever. You're welcome, you're welcome, you're welcome. All right, let me just have a sip of my cup of tea. So you're welcome, you're welcome, you're welcome as we dive into the world of sleep, the world of sleep. So feel free to share the link with others and let's just dive deep into the world of sleep as we explore the science of sleep. All right. So here we go. So when we fall asleep, we often think that the brain shuts down and so the brain shuts down and we're sleeping and that's it. No, that's not that's not what happens. Sleep is the brain's night shift. And when we're sleeping, we're not shutting down completely. In reality, it's a night shift. It's an active biological process that helps to restore and reorganize the body itself and re-energize the brain. So while your muscles relax when you sleep, your brain starts the process of cleaning, sorting, repairing, and restoring its function. It's just similar to a factory that runs quality control overnight. In a similar way, when your body's at rest during sleep, your brain is at work. So, in fact, sleep is probably one of the most active periods of the brain. And so it's very important to understand that sleep is not a complete shutdown of brain activity. Actually, it is a time when the brain is at work. All right. Now, sleep is a universal human need, right? And not just humans, animals. Sleep involves almost every species, whether humans, whether it's cats, elephants, from fruit flies to whales. All animals sleep in one form or the other. So that tells us that it's not an optional thing. Sleep is essential because it keeps the brain alive, it keeps the brain sharp, and it keeps the brain adaptable. So every species sleeps, and sleep time may differ from person to person, from species to species, but the purpose of sleep is the same, and that's for survival and for restoration. So why do we need to sleep? You should think of sleep as, the nightly software update that happens where there's repair and backup and proper calibration of our memory systems, our emotional systems, and our energy systems. And that's what tends to happen during sleep. During sleep, we have a repair happens where the cells and muscles and the tissues go through a healing period. So sleep is restorative. It's a period where repair takes place. All right. Sleep is also a period of time when memory is consolidated. Memory is consolidated usually in sleep, and so there's a time for learning where learning actually is established. and that way you can your short-term memory can then be consolidated into long-term memory. So any protocol that involves any peak performance protocol that would be successful would involve some form of um, will involve deep sleep. So sleep is really essential for learning, is what I'm saying there. All right, from an emotional standpoint as well, sleep is essential because it helps to set the mood in the right place and helps to reset. So sleep is important for that. It's also important for the hormones because sleep helps to reorganize and balance our hormones, and it helps to reset our metabolism. So when you look at the energy side of things, you look at our emotional composition, you look at repairing tissues, you look at memory itself, sleep is essential across the board. And when you're deprived of sleep, just like if your system misses a particular update, your focus goes away, you become irritable, and ultimately that may lead to a decline in health. So there are two main systems that control sleep. We've got the circadian rhythm and sleep pressure. So these are two systems that control sleep. You wonder, why do we sleep, or how do we sleep? Well, the circadian rhythm is our 24-hour internal clock. So sleep is orchestrated by these two forces: the circadian rhythm, which is governed by part of our brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. You don't need to remember that name, but there's a part of the brain that controls the biological clock that we have, and that helps to keep time with light and darkness. All right, so that as the time of the day changes and light comes up during the day and light goes down during the dark, our brain senses the change in environment and can adjust the way we feel and the need for sleep in that situation. So the circadian rhythm controls our sleep. But the other aspect of sleep is the buildup of pressure. Now, there's a hormone called adenosine which accumulates in our brain while we're awake. So throughout the day, as we go through the day, there's a buildup of this hormone in our brain called of this chemical in our brain called adenosine. So that the longer you are up, the heavier the longer you are up, the more the buildup of adenosine, and the heavier your eyelids will feel when you're tired. But one interesting thing is that caffeine, for those of us who drink coffee, blocks adenosine and takes away that feeling of sleepiness, which is the reason why a lot of people drink it. But the reality is that the longer you're awake, the more adenosine accumulates, and that's why you feel sleepy. All right, so these are two main pressures or two main systems that control sleep: the circadian rhythm, which I said is the biological clock, all right, and the buildup of adenosine, which then results in the increase in pressure, the desire to sleep. So if you're not able to build up adenosine, you won't feel the need to sleep. And if your biological clock is out of sync, for example, if you're having a problem with jet lag, or for those who have shift work, if your brain cannot connect with the light in a way that is um, balanced, then certainly your need for sleep will be off, and you may struggle with sleep from time to time. So light is the master signal. So just looking, into more detail about the importance of light and how light affects our sleep. So light is a very key signal when it comes to sleep. Your light tells your brain when to wake, and darkness tells your brain when to sleep. So when we're exposed to light in the morning, the light set, the light the light shines through our eyes into our retina. All right, and there are parts of our retina that capture the light and send a signal to our brain. So every time we're exposed to morning light, the light actually stimulates our brain. It stimulates a part of our brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. You don't need to remember that. But that part of the brain called the SCN, suprachiasmatic nucleus, is the master clock of the brain. So every time you're exposed to light in the morning, that your brain is activated. And when your brain is activated, your brain releases hormones that gets you going, and your brain inhibits, or your brain reduces the production of hormones that will make you feel sleepy, such as melatonin. Melatonin is one natural hormone that helps us feel sleepy, or that makes us um, feel the need to sleep. It's a natural occurring hormone. So to summarize this, light is really important because that's how the biological clock works. So when we wake up and we're exposed to light, the light hits our retina, and when it hits the retina, the light, it stimulates the brain. the part of the brain called the SCN, suprachiasmatic nucleus. And what that does is to cause the release of certain hormones that will keep us in wakefulness. So that the more exposure we have to light, the more alert we become. The less exposed we are to light, the more the more calm we become, or the less alert we become. So it's very important to understand that balance. And there's a process of training our bodies to adjust to light, which is called entrainment. And that's often what happens when we go from one um, time zone to the other. So if you travel across time zones, it takes a couple of days. It can take from two days to 6 days for you to adjust to the change in the exposure to light. So if your body's used to, if your brain is used to, receiving light at a particular time, your brain and your body will be adjusted to that for a long time. So if you switch time zones, it may take a couple of days for you to adjust to that. So light tells your brain when to wake, and darkness tells your brain when to sleep. And so there's the hormone called melatonin, and some of you might be aware of melatonin, which is that nighttime messenger. Melatonin builds up in our bodies in the evening. It goes down in the mornings and builds up in the evening because light inhibits melatonin. So if you wake up and you feel groggy, one hack is to expose yourself to light, because light inhibits melatonin. When you're exposed to light, bright light, as I said, the light gets into your retina, to your brain, sends the signal to the brain, and this, when the signal gets to the brain, it will turn off the production of melatonin. So melatonin, the production of melatonin is hindered by exposure to light. So many people think melatonin makes you sleep, but really it just opens up the gates that allows you to sleep. So true sleep comes when your circadian rhythm, when that biological clock, and when the adenosine pressure or the sleep pressure align. So that's why having regular bedtime and evening dim light habits are very powerful. So controlling the amount of light you're exposed to and having a regular bedtime will be essential for those of you who are struggling with sleep. So if you understand what I'm saying already now, there are two systems that control how you sleep: your biological clock, which you can actually work on by having regular bedtime, as well as exposure to so as well as the need for sleep, the buildup of the sleep um hormone, which is adenosine, which can be blocked by caffeine, and I'll talk about caffeine later. But I've also to explain to you that exposure to light can affect the production of another hormone, which is melatonin, that can also, make us feel sleepy. So if we're exposed to light in the morning, we become more alert, and that alertness, of course, because our bodies produce a stress hormone called cortisol. So sunlight suppresses melatonin, but sunlight also causes the production of cortisol, especially, in the mornings. So the more we are exposed to sunlight, the more we adjust our sleep wake cycle, and that's very important for us to understand. I hope that this is making some sense. Um, um, let's just keep the comments coming. Just keep the comments, flowing. I'm sure my team will be able to identify those comments, particularly those that are questions. So you don't need to pose the questions on right now. Just put them um, somewhere for me so that I'll come deal with the questions. Those that are questions. So, um, fantastic. All right. So let me just make progress with that. You'll see from my graph, this is my own handwritten graph, that when you are awake in the morning, your cortisol level rises up, but your melatonin drops because of exposure to light. So light inhibits melatonin. And in the evening, from around 4 to 6 o'clock, as it goes dark, all right, melatonin starts to increase. And this is more prominent in winter, particularly for those of you, or those people who live um, in the kind of climate where you get a lot of in winter, where darkness comes on quickly. When that happens, melatonin starts to build up, and then you feel the need to sleep whilst your cortisol levels drop. All right, now let me move on for that. We're just warming up. I'm also just warming up. By the way, I just woke up from sleep, so my energy is still, I'm still warming up. Okay, so melatonin is not a sedative, it's a signal that tells your body the night has begun. So, what happens to your body and your brain during sleep. As I said, sleep triggers widespread restoration across multiple systems. So during sleep, your brain trims those weak neuronal connections and it strengthens the important ones. So during sleep, your brain repair occurs, your heart slows down, the heart rate usually goes down. It can go down to the 30s and 40s during sleep. Your blood pressure drops, your tissues regenerate. Growth hormone also surges during sleep. So when you're asleep, growth hormone, there's a surge of growth hormone, and the immune cells become more active so that they can clear off any sort of bad signals or bad antigens. So sleep is actually the perfect maintenance window for restoration of the human body. All right, but there's a cost to skipping sleep, because when we do not have good sleep, we then, we limit the restorative, the period of restoration. All right, we narrow that restorative window, and of course, when we do that, we're going to sort of struggle. So missing just one night of sleep can impair the attention of an individual to the extent that it will feel like someone with a blood alcohol level of 0.05%, which in most countries is, above the legal limit. So just missing one night of sleep can impair your focus and attention and make you feel like you're drunk, really. So chronic sleep debt is a big problem. And I know that from my own personal life and from my interactions with a lot of people, and even from my clinical work as a neurologist, I see a lot of people who have a lot of neurological conditions that are tied to poor sleep or lack of sleep. So chronic sleep debt, is responsible for a lot of health problems. It increases the risk of obesity, diabetes, heart disease, depression, and many other conditions. And that's why it's very important for you to pay attention to this, not just for your health, but also for your performance as an individual, as a professional, in whatever you do. If you're not having good quality sleep, it's likely that you are operating at a low level of performance. All right, operating at a low level of performance. So sleep is a productivity tool. It's the ultimate productivity tool that helps you to recharge, helps you to rise again and get going. So most successful leaders, athletes, influencers, innovators prioritize rest. So sleep is not just lost time. You must not consider sleep as, oh, time to waste. No, it's not wasted time. It's investment time. Because when your brain is recharged properly, you'll be able to make better decisions. You'll be able to regulate your emotions better, and you'll be able to innovate in a better way. But if you cheat yourself of sleep, you're going to struggle more and more. So quality sleep enhances creativity, it helps with decision making, and helps to build resilience. So let's just recap, what have we learned so far? We've learned that sleep is active, not passive. Sleep is not your brain shutting down. Your brain does not shut down in sleep. In fact, the converse is the case. Your brain is the most active at during sleep. All right. During sleep, your brain is super, super active. Okay. Sleep is governed by two things: rhythm, the circadian rhythm, and pressure, the buildup of adenosine. I said it. Throughout the day, you build up adenosine, which then increases that sleep pressure. So the longer you are awake, the longer the pressure will build to the point where you'll just have to sleep. And of course, there's also a rhythm to it. There's a biological clock which is governed by exposure to light. So if you learn those two things, rhythm and pressure, so responding to that buildup of pressure, not denying that pressure, you can suppress that pressure by taking coffee, which a lot of us will do. We have a buildup of pressure, we feel groggy and we feel sleepy. We suppress that pressure. But if you really want to enjoy your sleep, you align the buildup of pressure with regular behaviors that would help control your circadian rhythm. Remember that light controls the timing of sleep. Remember that sleep is very helpful. It's restorative. It helps to restore your body and it helps to consolidate memory. And remember that skipping sleep drains health and performance. All right. So those are very key things that I've just shared so far. I hope you're getting value. I hope you're getting value from this so far. For those of you who are connected, I hope you're getting value. So let's go to the stages of sleep. Okay, we're going to go a bit deeper now. The stages of sleep. So sleep is not one thing, it's a cycle. All right, sleep is not just one thing, it's a cycle. And so we cycle through about 4 to 6 stages of sleep. There are 4 to 6 stages of sleep every night, and each stage lasts for about 9 minutes. So we go through different stages of sleep. So sleep is not just one long stretch of unconsciousness. All right. No, it is made up of repeating cycles. There are repeating cycles of sleep, and each cycle has a distinct stage that the brain moves through like waves. So we typically go through 4 to 6 of these cycles throughout the night. All right. So the secret of feeling refreshed is not just how long you sleep, but how complete your cycles are. Let me say this again. The secret of feeling refreshed is not how long you sleep, but how complete your sleep cycles are. All right. So remember that each cycle takes about 90 minutes, and you have to go through most of the cycles and go through them properly. All right. And completely for you to get refreshing sleep. All right. So there are two main types of sleep. We've got the non rapid eye movement sleep, the NREM sleep, and we've got the REM sleep. So we've got the REM sleep and we've got the non REM sleep. And I'm just going to explain that to us that the non rapid eye movement sleep takes the majority of sleep. We're talking about stages of sleep now. So about 75 to 80% of the time you spend sleeping is non-rapid eye movement, whereas 20-25% is the rapid eye movement of sleep. And there's a reason for this. The non-rapid eye movement, that's the non-REM. I'll just use the word non-REM, NREM. Non-REM is the body's repair zone. That's when repair happens. Muscles recover, tissues heal, and your brain cleans itself. That's why 75 to 80% of the time um, of sleep is dedicated to recovery and healing and cleansing. Whereas the rapid eye movement sleep, the REM sleep, is the brain's or mind's creative zone. It's when dreams occur, it's when your emotions are processed, it's when your memories are integrated. And we often alternate between these two stages throughout the night. So you will go from non-REM to REM, non-REM to REM, non-REM to REM. So you go from that repair zone to the creative zone, from the repair zone to the creative zone, 90 minutes at a time, cycling through those different stages of sleep. So in the REM stage of sleep, your dreams occur in that space, and dreams can be so powerful because dreams can open up a portal for you to access, you know, a different dimension. Dreams can actually just be occur due to reorganizations of memories. So that some of the experiences you've had during your wakeful state will become integrated during the REM sleep, and so that can manifest as a dream. And in that non-REM state, your emotions are properly processed, your memories are integrated, and in fact, long-term memories are consolidated. So people who do not have adequate REM sleep often will struggle to retain information or to form long-term memories. So let's just talk a little bit more about the stages of sleep. So the first stage of sleep is the, stage one, when stage one sleep, when we often just drift into sleep when, well, be tired. Okay, so that's the easy border between wakefulness and sleep. Your mind just drifts and your muscles twitch and your body transitions from that zone of consciousness to unconsciousness. It usually lasts for a few minutes, but it's the gateway into the deeper stages of sleep. All right, so stage one pretty much is that first stage of sleep where we just feel very drowsy. All right, some people will just call it drowsiness, and that's when you sort of, yeah, doze off. All right, it's light and it only takes about 5% of total sleep time. Now stage two sleep is where this, light sleep, deepens. All right, and it's we spend about half of our sleep time we spend in stage two. Here, our brain produces bursts called sleep spindles. You see all um, these little movements there. These are electrical signals that the brain generates. They're called sleep spindles. Okay, they are bursts of activity, electrical activity, and what they do is to protect you from waking up too easily. So when we have sleep spindles, we're able to sort of maintain sleep, because in stage two sleep we spend about 50% of our sleep time here. All right, our brains also produce what we call K complexes, which are also some sounds that some signals in the brain that helps us to stay asleep, and helps us to um, helps to avoid interruption when we are sleeping. So pretty much stage two sleep is like your brain saying do not disturb. All right, so we're in a do not disturb mode as we get into stage two sleep, and that's often, the majority of sleep time is spent in stage two. So we go into light sleep. That's when our heart rate drops, the temperature drops, our body becomes colder, or cooler, and the brain also protects sleep. The brain wants to be repair itself, so the brain's like, hey, do not disturb. We're closed, even though it's like a restaurant that has a closed sign on the door, but the staff are still there because they're cleaning up, they're prepping for the next day, they're cleaning up and getting ready, and because they've got to open up the next day. So pretty much that's what happens when you're in stage two sleep. Your heart rate drops, your temperature drops, your brain puts up a do not disturb sign with the sleep spindles and the K complexes going everywhere, so that your brain can sort of restore itself. And that's where we spend the most time during sleep. But then there's a deeper level of sleep, which is the deep sleep, the slow wave sleep. So this is deeper. And when we get into this deep to slow wave sleep, our breathing slows down, our blood pressure drops further, our brain waves even become slower. They become so slow, we call them delta waves. They slow down like the waves of the sea, they become delta waves. And it's in this period of time that the growth hormone, I'm sure some of us in here would have heard about growth hormone. Growth hormone is a very powerful hormone that allows us to grow. Kids produce a lot of growth hormone because, you know, it helps with growth spurts, but growth hormone is also very helpful for healing tissues and healing bodies. That's why it's a steroid that is banned, or it's a drug that is banned, from athletes, and some athletes who dope inject growth hormone so that they can heal their muscles, and they can recover better between exercise. So growth hormone is released in deep sleep, and it helps with tissue repair. And this is also when the lymphatic system, which is that system that helps to clear toxins from the brain, also occurs. So you see, when we're in deep sleep, in this slow wave sleep, look at what happens. Our breathing slows down, blood pressure drops, our brain becomes very slow with the delta waves, and the growth hormone is released so that our bodies can heal. So this deep sleep, slow wave sleep, is for healing, muscle repair, tissue repair, cleaning the brain of all toxins, and helping us to feel better. If you miss this stage of sleep, you will feel physically drained no matter how long you've slept. Some people sleep 6, 7 hours, and they all just spend time in stage one, stage two sleep, light sleep, drowsiness into light sleep, drowsiness into light sleep. That's okay to, it's good to, sorry, it's good to have a bit of light sleep, and it's good to spend time in that stage of light sleep. But deep restoration and healing takes place in stage three sleep. So physical restoration, boosting the immune system, and release of the growth hormone all happens. But then REM sleep, I talked about REM sleep. Okay, so 25%, 15 to 20% of the time we spend in REM sleep. And this usually begins within the first 90 minutes after you fall asleep, and it gets longer with each cycle. Remember that I said that sleep is not just one long period of unconsciousness. No, sleep occurs in cycles. So the efficiency of your sleep is not based on the duration of your sleep. No, it's actually based on how complete each of the cycles are. So your brain becomes almost as active as when you are awake. In fact, REM sleep is almost like wakefulness. It's like you're active, all right? But what generally happens is that the body is paralyzed. So during REM sleep, our bodies are paralyzed while our brains are active. The reason why our bodies are paralyzed is so that we do not move around. It's a safety feature to stop us from acting our dreams. In certain disease conditions, like in Parkinson's disease, in Lewy body dementia, and in some other kind of degenerative brain diseases, this paralysis is taken off. And I've got tons of patients, or not tons, but lots of patients with Parkinson's disease who will act out their dreams. I've had patients beat up their wives, men beat up their wives, or women scream and do all kinds of stuff. They always act out their dreams because the paralysis that the body has during REM sleep is lost, or is or wears off very quickly in these disease conditions. But some more people have it. Some people have primary, we call it primary REM sleep behavioral disorder, where they during REM sleep they just can't they can't stay still. They move around, they trash around, they talk, they curse, they fight, they jump around. If they're having a nightmare, you see them talking and doing acting out the nightmare. It's a form of sleep disorder. It can occur on its own, or it can occur in combination with other degenerative diseases like Parkinson's disease, dementia, and a couple of other conditions. But REM sleep is the dream stage. As I said, it starts within 90 minutes of falling asleep. It gets longer with each cycle of sleep, but it's that time of sleep when your brain is in the creative zone. It's that time of the brain. So a lot of learning takes place, a lot of creativity takes place, a lot of emotional balance takes place. Those are three key things that happen in REM sleep: learning, creativity, emotional balance. So REM sleep is important for dreaming. That's the dream state. Memory consolidation occurs there, and emotion regulation occurs there. So if you're skipping REM sleep, you'll feel moody, you'll feel forgetful, you'll feel creatively flat. It will be hard for you to be innovative and creative if you're not having enough REM sleep, because it's in this period that those distant neuronal connections are breached, where your daytime, all the experiences you've had during the day, they're consolidated. It's also the REM sleep where you get those kind of nightmares. Remember when you're a little kid, you watch a horror movie and then you sleep and you just start seeing the horror movie in here. That's what happens in REM sleep. So all the memories of the day are consolidated in REM sleep, and as they are consolidated, you may actually dream them out. All right, and experience them in that way. So as night progresses, the deep sleep dominates each cycle. So as the night goes on, you spend longer and longer time in deep sleep. So in the first half of the night, we get more deep sleep. The body repairs itself, and then in the second half of the night, we get more REM sleep. That's when the creative time of sleep happens. So the first half is often a repair, and then the second half of the night is usually the creative time. So that's why sleeping a full length matters, because cutting short the morning hours often robs you of REM sleep. So if you're not sleeping through the night, or you're cutting short of your night, you'll have less REM sleep. And so the emotional balance, the creativity, and all that will become potentially affected. I hope I'm making sense. I know that um, I'm sharing some deep stuff, so I hope I'm making sense. All right, let's go on. So each sleep stage represents a different pattern of brain activity. Okay, so when we're in stage one, we have what we call the alpha waves, which then transition to theta waves. You don't need to worry too much about that. Okay, and then in stage two, you get those sleep spindles, which protect us from waking up. And then you get a deep sleep where the delta waves, the slow delta waves dominate. And then in the REM sleep, there's a high frequency waves like in wakefulness. So REM sleep is very fast. It's like a storm of ideas and dreams and all of that going on. It's very chaotic, but it's also very powerful. So you see that balance of going from alpha to theta to delta and then to REM sleep is very important, because it helps our brain to stay resilient and flexible. So why cycling through this matters? It matters because every stage performs a vital task. So every stage. So stage one helps you enter sleep. Stage two stabilizes and protects sleep. Stage three repairs your body. Stage four rejuvenates your mind. I say it again. Stage one of sleep helps you to enter sleep. It ushers you into sleep. Stage two stabilizes you through sleep and protects your brain. Stage three repairs your body. Stage four rejuvenates your mind. Stage one helps you get into sleep. Stage two stabilizes you and protects you through sleep. Stage three repairs your body, and stage four rejuvenates your mind. So when all these stages flow together, your body and your mind will feel restored, like a system that's been rebooted overnight. So remember that every stage performs a vital task. You skip one and your performance will suffer. So it's very important for you to understand this, and hopefully apply that. So, what are the signs of healthy sleep cycle? You know your sleep cycles are healthy when you fall asleep easily. All right, when you fall, we call it the sleep latency. When you fall asleep easily, when you don't have to, some people get into bed and they spend 1 hour, 2 hours, they can't fall asleep. When you fall asleep easily, that's very good. Okay, when you're able to stay asleep okay, with minimal awakenings, all right, that's a sign that you have a healthy sleep cycle. And when you wake up feeling refreshed without grogginess, all right, that's another good sign. So these are three good signs, okay? All right, now dreams can occur occasionally, all right, but they're very good. Your dreams are a sign of REM balance, all right, and having a stable mood and energy throughout the day is very essential because that tells us that you're having good deep sleep quality. So if throughout the day your mood is steady, your energy levels are steady throughout the day, it's a good sign that you're having good quality sleep at night. All right. One of the signs of poor sleep at night is that during the day you feel fatigued, you have what we call excessive daytime sleepiness, and you just not feel refreshed and all that. So these are five signs of healthy sleep cycles. You fall asleep easily, you wake up few times, very minimal awakenings because you can stay asleep, you feel refreshed, your dreams, you can recall them occasionally, and um, your mood is stable, you got good energy throughout the day. So, what are the takeaways? The quick recap from the sleep stages here. Deep sleep repairs your body, REM sleep rewires your mind, but both of them are essential for peak performance. So, great sleep is like a symphony. Each stage plays its own perfect rhythm. So, when your circles are disrupted by stress or screens or your routines are all irregular, that music is broken. But when you restore the harmony, you'll feel sharper, you'll feel clearer, you feel calmer, and you'll be more productive. So, it's important for you to understand that. So, next section, what happens in the brain during sleep? We've talked about the need for sleep. What is sleep? The need for sleep, the stages of sleep. Now, what happens in your brain during sleep? So, your brain never sleeps. Your body sleeps, but your brain never sleeps. Someone said rest for the body, but repair for the brain. So, your brain never sleeps. So, during sleep, your brain works harder than you think. So, when your body rests, your brain begins to work. It's organizing, it's cleaning, it's healing, it's learning, it's consolidating. It's a full maintenance shift every time you sleep. So think of your brain as a busy office. During the daytime, you are putting in data, you're doing meetings, you are doing all around everything, but nighttime is for filing, deleting spam, system updates. That's what happens in the brain as well. So at night when you're sleeping, your brain is actually working harder. So it's like a reset. So during the day, yes, there's information overload, but at night, your brain is reorganizing itself, rewiring itself, getting everything in place and in order. All right, that's what happens. So every day, your brain collects enormous amount of data, information, experiences. But during sleep, it sorts through that data, keeping what is important and discarding the rest. So without that nightly rest, your brain will become cluttered, your emotions will be awire, and you'll lose that balance. And of course, what happens is that your performance will decline over time. Your performance will decline over time. So it's very important for you to understand that balance and to keep it in mind that the that healthy sleep is really really essential. Having a good quality sleep is important for your performance, and without that you're going to struggle a lot. You're going to struggle a lot. So let's move on for this. So the memory factory is very interesting because during a non-REM sleep, our brain replace the day's activities and the hippocampus. Now, the hippocampus is what the structure that looks like a little horse. All right. During the day, our brain replaces the day's events, and that's the brain's temporary storage. So within the hippocampus here, you've got a temporary storage within this horse-like structure, like it looks like a seahorse. All right. So those memories are then transferred into the rest of the brain, the neocortex, which is the brain's long-term storage. So the transfer of memory from short term into long term storage happens during sleep. Okay, it's like saving your work on a hard drive instead of leaving it in your temporary memory. So when we skip sleep, it means that our brain will never finish this transfer. So you forget what you learned. Any protocol for forming a new habit that does not incorporate adequate deep sleep will we fail. So if you're going to have adequate, if you're going to form a new habit, create a new habit, or learn something new, you need to incorporate adequate sleep into your protocol. That is essential. So sleep helps to transform experiences into lasting memories. All right. We're talking about the benefits of sleep or what happens to your brain during sleep. Well, your brain's cleaning crew, what we call the glymphatic system, also works. So one of the most fascinating discoveries in neuroscience is the glymphatic system, which is the brain's waste clearance network. So during deep sleep, brain cells shrink, and that allows the flow of fluid around the brain cells called the cerebrospinal fluid. So the fluid flows between cells and flushes out toxins. All right. So these toxins are flushed out during deep sleep. So it means that deep sleep is literally a detoxifying process for our brain every night. So deep sleep activates the cleansing system that removes toxins. It's very important for you to understand that. What about emotions? Our emotions too are affected by sleep. So our REM sleep, which is a dreaming stage, helps us to regulate emotions. So REM sleep is not just for creativity, it's not just for dreaming, it also helps to regulate emotions. So during the REM sleep, our amygdala, which is that part of the brain that generates emotions, particularly negative emotions, cools down. That's why when you have a good night's sleep, you find that you'll respond more rationally instead of acting emotionally. So if someone upsets you and you're overwhelmed or overcharged, you realize that if you have a good sleep, you will realize that you'll calm down a little bit more, and that's what happens. Your REM sleep cuts short that emotional activation, and you feel less irritable, less anxious, and you will not be prone to overreacting. All right, because of the impact of sleep. So REM sleep helps to calm the amygdala and it restores emotional balance. That's what tends to happen. What about creativity and problem solving? All right. Sleep helps to inspire insight. All right. Have you ever gone to bed stuck on a problem and you're like, oh, am I going to fix this problem? And you're just cracking your brain and then you just wake up with the answer. That's because during REM sleep, all these unrelated ideas are brought together. All right. It's a process that in neuroscience we call associative creativity. So it's one of the bases for generating insights. So loosely connected ideas are brought together during REM sleep. So if you have a brain problem that you're stuck with and you're like, how am I going to solve it? Oftentimes just leaving it and just sleeping may just be a solution. There are a lot of famous discoveries that have come through this whole process where people just dream it out. And sometimes in your dream you just get a profound idea. Well, like, oh, how did this come? All right. Now, some people can get that by revelation, particularly for spiritual people who, feel, oh yeah, God's spoken to me. Yeah, which is a possibility. But oftentimes when we sleep and we have a problem stuck in our minds, the associative creativity of the brain, which is activated during REM sleep, can bring in unrelated ideas or deeply disconnected ideas together into the puzzle to fill that puzzle. So sleep does not just restore, there's a bit of innovation that happens during sleep, and we can actually get good insights. So dreams helps us to combine memories in new ways. The memories that we experience during the day are consolidated in REM sleep, and they are consolidated in new ways that can allow us to actually generate insights. So, just to talk a little bit about brain chemistry, I'm not going to spend too much time here. I've mentioned a couple of hormones. I've talked about melatonin, which triggers sleep onset. All right, I've talked about cortisol, which goes down at night and rises in the morning. When you wake up in the morning, cortisol rises. When you go to bed, it goes down. People with anxiety often have persistently elevated cortisol. Their cortisol levels can go down. Cortisol is a stress hormone. So when people have anxiety, cortisol level stays high, they can't sleep, they stay awake, and that's one of the reasons why they do so. They have insomnia. Growth hormone is released during deep sleep for repair, and adenosine builds up throughout the day, and it's cleared during sleep. So adenosine is like a byproduct of the wear and tear of the day. So all the hustle and bustle of the day builds up adenosine. Every day, every second you spend being awake, you build up adenosine. And as I said, caffeine itself stops or blocks the production of adenosine, and so that's what happens with some of these brain chemicals. So the cost of sleep deprivation in the brain: when we do not sleep properly, our memory is impaired, our focus is impaired, our anxiety worsens. If you've got anxiety and you're not sleeping well, it's a vicious cycle. Decision making slows down, creativity is impaired. So you must understand that when you're sleep deprived, your prefrontal cortex, which is that part of the brain that helps you to think, decide, stop, and go, helps you to think, make decisions, help you for self inhibition, and helps you to make goal directed behaviors. Or that part of your brain, your logic, your decision center will shut down. So when you're not sleeping properly, that becomes a problem. Your decision making capacity is reduced. And the amygdala and the limbic system, which is the emotional part of the brain, the feeling part of the brain, becomes hyperactive. That's why tired people make impulsive decisions. All right. Tired people make impulsive decisions. They struggle with focus and they are usually emotionally unstable. So sleep loss doesn't just make you feel tired, it makes you, makes you less who you really are or who you should be. So you must understand that. So sleep is costly. Lack of sleep deprivation is costly. Sleep deprivation is costly. So we know that brain scans have shown us the beautiful rhythm of the brain as we get into deep sleep. It's like an orchestra playing in perfect synchrony. So these slow waves of sleep allow communication between deep regions of the brain. So our brain speaks to each other. Different parts of the brain speak to each other during deep sleep. And we see that. So when our brains are awake, everywhere is disjointed, everyone's just acting, but during sleep you get these waves that occur. So communication occurs within different parts of the brain, and that's the basis for creativity and dreams, as I've said. All right, let me move on because of time. So, sleep is also connected to long term brain health. Regular restorative sleep will protect your brain from diseases like Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, depression. All of these kind of diseases can be, minimized or protected against by having regular restorative sleep. So, if your sleep is inadequate over a period of time, it will accelerate aging of the brain because of the fact that you'll be accumulating toxins. All right, and it can also shrink your memory centers and impair your emotional stability. So it's important. So sleep is the most powerful, legal, side effect free supplement out there. I say it again: sleep is the most powerful, legal, free of side effects supplement out there. So if you're going to invest your money in anything, buy sleep. So let's recap the sleeping brain at work. Okay, during sleep, your brain stores memories, clears toxins, regulates emotions, sparks creativity, and balances your hormones. So, hope you're getting something out of this. If you're getting something out of it. So, let's go to common sleep disorders or some sleep issues that professionals tend to have. All right. So, this is where we're getting interesting now. We've talked about what sleep is, the stages of sleep, and the benefits of sleep, and what happens, the cost of not having adequate sleep. So, sleep problems in a modern professional. Yeah, most people, professionals or working people, are sleeping less and less. Now, the average sleep time for the average professional is 6.3 hours per night instead of recommended 7 to 9 hours. So in today's 24/7 world of work, 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 technology and all that, we have blurred the boundaries between day and night. So the night is as bright as the day. And many of us run on caffeine, adrenaline, anxiety, and we wonder why our brain does not switch off at bedtime. So that's the problem. And if you've got chronic restriction of sleep, it can become a problem with productivity over time. So, what are the top sleep disruptors in busy people? Number one, high stress and overthinking. You see, our brains are designed for rhythm and recovery, but modern work constantly breaks that rhythm. All right. So when there's mental overactivity, that would slow down our brain. What about digital overstimulation, exposure to light, blue light in particular? You see, the development of the blue LED, which allows us to have white LED lights, was genius. And the guys that developed it, all right, they've done great work. But the blue light itself, which allows us to have white light in our homes. Everyone uses an LED. Every time you say white LED, there's blue light in it because the white light you see in your LED is not just white light. There's no white LED. It's a combination of blue, red, the usual that gives you the white light. Blue light itself, all right, is so powerful. in stimulating your retina and stimulating your brain to stop the production of melatonin. Blue light stops melatonin, and melatonin is what sets your brain up for sleep. Melatonin is like the switch button to say, hey, it's time to sleep. It tells your brain that it's time to sleep. So if you are exposed to bright light, blue light particular, or these are our usual white LED lights, we're telling our brains it's not time to sleep. We're saying no melatonin, it's not time to sleep. So digital overstimulation, and blue light is everywhere. It's in your devices, on your phones, in your iPads, in our TVs. LEDs are everywhere. In our rooms, our lamps everywhere. Even our decorative lights, everything has LED. All right. So that's why technology is also evolving now. Our phones have night modes, our wristwatches have night modes, and you can get screen protectors, they call them blue light filters and all that, to shield blue light exposure after a particular time of the day. You can do that. So the top sleep disruptors: blue light exposure at night, irregular sleep times, caffeine after midday. All right, because as I said, caffeine stops the buildup of adenosine, and adenosine is responsible for the sleep pressure. So caffeine after midday can do that, and having a sedentary lifestyle. So the fact that most of us go to our offices, we're on desk all day, we're having coffee, 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 we're exposed to blue light, and we work late into the night in the office. And even if you're working from home, it's the same. You are just working, on the screen. You're exposed to blue light throughout the day, and the blue light is so powerful that it stops you from feeling sleepy, and then your sleep time is off and on, and you're overthinking, there's a lot of mental overactivity, you're stressed, and your brain's arousal system is just switched on. And when that happens, you just realize that it'll be a big problem. Even just checking one email keeps your brain in that problem solving mode rather than the sleep mode. Oh, let me just check one more email. Oh, let me send one more text message. Oh, let me check that notification. And the thumbs up button, the like button that Facebook brought, someone said that's one of the most powerful inventions ever. All right, the like button and the notification, the red notification, when you see two or three numbers in red, yeah, oh, that's another notification. What is that? What is that? What is that? And that is just the top sleep disruptor in our time here. So insomnia occurs when the brain won't switch off. Insomnia is not just not sleeping enough, it's when your brain refuses to power down. All right. So you're exhausted. Your body wants rest, but your mind is still running around, board meetings around in your head. You are still having meetings in your head all through, and you just can't shut down. You can't just relax. You can't calm down. And working people are quite vulnerable to this because their work patterns keep their brain in that constant problem solving mode. And when your brain is in that constant problem solving mode, even while you're in bed, you won't be able to switch off. So insomnia is a condition that is quite common, and when you have difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep despite having the opportunities to sleep. All right, and your body may want the rest, you feel exhausted, but you just can't sleep. All right, so what happens when insomnia occurs? The root cause of insomnia is hyperarousal, and that's just because the brain is unable to shift from alert to calm. Your brain cannot shift from that high alert state to calm. And I talked about cortisol the other day, the stress hormone that is elevated in the morning and goes down in the evening. Cortisol there stays elevated. So throughout the day, there's a high level of cortisol, and of course, the amygdala, the emotional alarm center, keeps scanning for threats everywhere. All right, and you will just worry, and you're planning. Your default mode network is in action, and you're just worrying and planning. And in your head, there's a mental rehearsal of everything that you have done and everything that you will do. So your brain just essentially goes through this whole cycle of doing things, and is just debilitating. So cortisol remains elevated, the amygdala stays overactive. Your prefrontal cortex, which helps you to make decisions, just keeps analyzing, and you just then can't get on into sleep. For some people, they have a problem initiating sleep. For others, they have problem maintaining sleep, meaning that once they wake up, they just can't go back to bed. So their brain gets stuck in that alert mode. So what are the kind of things that you can do? The gold standard treatment for insomnia is not pills, it is retraining your brain. So the gold standard therapy is cognitive behavioral therapy. It's a form of psychological therapy that will help you teach your brain to rebuild healthy associations with bedtime and to also help you reduce overthinking. So you'll have to form what we call habit reversal techniques that will reverse that habit of you always associating bedtime with thinking, bedtime with analyzing, bedtime with social media and all that. So combining that with consistent routines, all right, low light and all sorts will help you. So apart from the cognitive behavioral therapy, have wind down rituals. Like, wind down rituals will be like, things you will do that will just set you up. They will set you up for sleep. It could be having a cold shower, all right. It could be, having some form of stretching exercises. It could be journaling. It could be prayer. It could be listening to a particular type of music. All right. But it's a ritual. It's you're setting your brain up so that once that starts to set into place, once you start exposing yourself to that, you're telling your brain it's time to shut down. It's time to shut down. It's time to shut down. So practicing mindfulness and breathing techniques are also very helpful. It helps you to relax. And you can do that with prayers. For those of you who are people of faith, you can do that with worship and prayers and all that. Just relaxing, it will get you into that. And also having regular sleep and wake times, meaning that you don't go to bed when you feel like going to bed. You go to bed even when you don't feel like going to bed, meaning you shut down the lights, you set a time. I'm going to bed. My sleep time is 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. All right. And of course, it takes time to build habits. So if you've been struggling with insomnia, it's going to be difficult to break that. All right. But if you try therapy for insomnia and you combine that with all of these healthy things, habits, you realize that over a period of time, you'll be able to break that. So, in short, you don't force sleep, you create the conditions for it. You don't force sleep on yourself, you got to create the conditions for sleep. And as you do that, your brain will gradually relearn how to fall asleep. So, you see from the graphic there, have a routine. Get yourself into relaxation rituals and create an environment that allow you to sleep. Some people have TVs in their bedrooms and the TVs are on. Some people go into their rooms, bedrooms with devices on, no blue filters on and all that. No. So you need to figure out a way to do it, and it will take some discipline to do so. All right. So remember also, I would also prescribe that you have a detox from screen 1 hour before bedtime. So 1 hour before bedtime, no screens. Okay. That's also because of blue light. So if you're struggling with insomnia, don't have anything to do with I said any medical, any device, any phone device, at least 1 hour before bedtime. All right. If you do that, you'll find that um, if you combine all of this together, and as I said, it's not easy. It's going to take time to form these new habits. Sleep apnea is it's a silent killer. Let me put it that way. A lot of people suffer from sleep apnea and they don't know it. It occurs when the airway collapses. There's a collapse in the airway during sleep. So, and when this happens, it stops breathing. It briefly stops breathing. Every pause in breathing will then jolt the brain awake to reopen the airway, even if you don't notice it. So people who suffer from sleep apnea obstruct their airway, they stop breathing, and it's like they're choking. And as they choke, they wake up, all right, but they don't fully wake up. They jolt and move around, all right, but they don't even notice that they're awake. So you may never notice that you have those micro awakenings. You will never notice that you have those micro awakenings when you have sleep apnea, but your brain does. Your brain knows that you're waking up. Your brain knows that because your brain loses that deep and REM cycle. Remember the deep sleep cycle, deep sleep we talked about, and the REM sleep cycles we talk about. Remember, deep sleep is for body restoration, REM sleep is for mental restoration, mental repair, memory repair, dreams, emotional regulation. Every time people with sleep apnea can't spend enough time in deep sleep or in REM sleep because they're always getting up. They don't get out of bed. They will wake up and say, "Hey, I've had 7 hours of sleep," but the 7 hours of sleep will feel like 2 hours of sleep because they are waking up all the time. Waking up all the time. The result is that they have poor quality sleep. They get morning headaches. They are fatigued. Even after a full night of sleep, they don't feel refreshed. So it's very common in people who snore loudly. So if you're there and you're a snorer, or your partner is a snorer, your husband or wife is a snorer, all right, you got to check that. If they are overweight or they are feeling constantly tired, if your wife is complaining, "I'm always tired, I'm always tired," and they snore, there's a chance that they may have sleep apnea. So sleep apnea occurs when there's interrupted breathing, it leads to fragmented sleep and daytime fatigue. All right. So how does sleep apnea affect the brain? Every time you obstruct the airway and you pause your breathing, your oxygen level drops. You see, there's an oxygen level drop, and when that happens, the brain panics because the brain is not getting enough oxygen. So whilst you are asleep, your brain is panicking, and that briefly wakes you up, activating that fight or flight response. And that can happen up to 20 times an hour, 50 times an hour, even 100 times an hour. It's called the apnea hypopnea index, AHI. For those who have sleep apnea, you don't understand what I'm talking about. Every time you block your airway, your heart races, your brain fragments in sleep, and you wake up feeling exhausted. So it's it's like trying to recharge your phone but unplugging it every second. Have you had some of those dodgy chargers that keep plugging and unplugging, or they keep touching, so your phone will keep making that sound? You know the sound that your phone makes when you keep get it plugged in, boom, boom, boom. And like, what's going on here? Because the charger is not connecting properly, and you just if it's on 50%, it will just stay 50%, and it can be quite frustrating. So that's what happens. Very similar to what happens in sleep apnea. Oxygen level drops. There are many micro awakenings in the brain. The blood pressure spikes. Remember, in blood pressure, in deep sleep, what's supposed to happen to blood pressure? Your blood pressure is supposed to drop in deep sleep. Your heart rate drops in deep sleep. Growth hormone surges. Tissue repair occurs. But the opposite is the case in sleep apnea. And of course, during the day, there's exhaustion. So, signs that you may have sleep apnea: men over 40, very common in men over 40. If you're overweight, if you have large necks, all right, or nasal obstruction, if your nose is always getting blocked, check it out. You may be at risk. All right. So, how do you fix sleep apnea? CPAP therapy. Okay, CPAP therapy, that is continuous positive airway pressure therapy. It's like a mask. There are different masks. You can have a full face mask or a nasal mask um, that can work. There are nasal pillows. There are different technologies right now that it's the most effective treatment by far. For people with very mild cases of sleep apnea, you can have a mouth guard or sleeping on your side. There are a couple of things that you can do, but often you may need to see a sleep physician. Of course, those are the oral appliances I talked about. Mild guards and all that can sometimes be helpful in mild cases, but by far the most effective treatment is CPAP therapy. All right. So weight reduction is very essential. Weight loss, weight loss, weight loss, weight loss. Losing weight is very essential. If you're a snorer, don't just say, "Oh, well, we snore. My husband snores. My husband," but your husband snores, and when he snores, he does this. You know those kind of dangerous snoring. If your husband is like that, you better get him to get a sleep study done, because he may be blocking his airway and causing problems for himself. All right, okay. So weight loss, positional therapy, very important. Let's go to something else. Okay, circadian rhythm disorders. Okay, that's when your clock is out of sync. Some people have problems sleeping because their biological clock is out of sync. Okay, so your circadian rhythm. We know I talked about the circadian rhythm initially. That's your internal clock. It loves consistency. All right. So when you're working rotating shifts, particularly for shift workers right here, or you travel across time zones, that clock becomes confused. So if you're supposed to be sleeping at night, but you're doing a night shift, of course it's going to be confused. And if you're on a rotating roster where you're not on a permanent night shift and you're there 2 days of morning, 2 days afternoon, 2 days night shift, and then you have 1 week off, and then you come back again for night shift, everything becomes confused. The brain is a very powerful predictive machine. Your brain likes constancy. Your brain likes predictability and certainty. So if your everything is every wire, your brain would often struggle, and that's because melatonin, which helps us feel the need to sleep, and cortisol, which helps us keep awake, they'll be released at the wrong times. So that when you're supposed to be sleepy, you have cortisol high, and when you're supposed to be awake, your melatonin will rise and you'll be feeling sleepy. So that will leave you sleeping when you should be awake and alert when you should be asleep. It's like running your brain on two time zones at the same time. That's what happens in circadian rhythm disorders. So you get jet lag, shift work sleep disorder, irregular sleep wake cycle. All right, I'm not going to spend too much time there because listen, I just realized I'm just halfway through this webinar, but I'm going to rush it. But don't worry, don't worry. This is supposed to be a 2 hour webinar. I don't know how long I've gone talking already. 1 hour 9 minutes. Wow, 1 hour 9 minutes we've been doing this. All right, so We've got to kick it up, okay? What about burnout and chronic sleep debt? That's another problem. We're looking at sleep problems in professionals. We've talked about sleep apnea, we've talked about insomnia, I've talked about the circadian rhythm disorders, burnout. Burnout is chronic stress plus emotional exhaustion plus poor recovery. Burnout doesn't just happen at work, it happens in the brain. So if there's constant stress in your brain, that will activate your brain's fight flight mode. Your cortisol levels will stay high, your melatonin will stay low. And remember what happens when cortisol is high, melatonin is low, you get no sleep. Your sleep becomes shallow and fragmented. So you might sleep for 7 hours, but you wake up feeling like you did not sleep at all. That's what often happens when you have that. So normally, as I said, cortisol peaks, all right, in the mornings. So your cortisol peaks in the morning, all right, and then it drops as you go in the evening. It drops. All right, that's normal. But for some people, cortisol remains high all day. When you're under chronic stress, your cortisol remains high all day. So that rhythmic flow of cortisol is lost, and so your brain never really powers down. And what happens is that the time spent in deep sleep, which is restorative sleep, and REM sleep, creative sleep, shrink. You don't spend enough time in deep sleep or in REM sleep, and so you deprive your body of recovery, and so that's important for you to understand. All right, okay. So um, cortisolism flattens, REM sleep decreases, inflammation rises, brain fog increases. So when people are burned out, they just have this constant, permanent brain fog, and they feel tired, they feel sleepy and tired all the time, but they can't get enough sleep to fix that. So how do you recover from burnout and restoring sleep? You've got to rebuild a consistent sleep wake cycle, and some of this will require a lot of intentionality with forming new habits. The way out of burnout isn't to work harder; it's to recover smarter. I'll say that again. The way out of burnout is not to work harder, it's to recover smarter. That means you protect your sleep window. That means you take short pauses during the day. Take short pauses during the day. You prioritize rest as fuel. Okay. And you need to be intentional about activating the part of the brain that helps with calming your brain, the calming system. It's called the parasympathetic system of the brain. It's the calming system. You've got to be intentional about activating this calming system of the brain. And you do that through breathing techniques, mindfulness, gratitude. You've got to calm your brain. All right. And that's what happens. When you calm your brain, your sleep will return naturally. And that's how you begin your journey to recovery. So if you're going to recover from burnout, the way out isn't to work out, as I said. You've got to activate the calming system. You need to have regular brain breaks, breathing exercises, mindfulness and meditation. If you're a person of faith, prayer and worship, keeping a gratitude journal. All right, that's way of activating your calming system, the parasympathetic system. That's it. If you activate that system, you're going to find that you're going to be much more um, effective. All right, I'm going to move on from this. So, burnout recovery is about regaining your deep sleep and REM sleep. So you see, the sleep is not the absence of work, is the foundation of it. That's true. So if you're going to recover from burnout, you've got to recover your deep sleep and REM sleep. As I said, deep sleep repairs the tissues, but REM sleep heals your emotions and gives you that motivation and creativity. So that's what this is about. All right. So we've talked about this, and so as I said earlier, most LEDs produce red, blue, and green light all mixed together. All right, but blue light is the one. Blue light delays melatonin release by up to 2 hours. So if you're having a lot of blue light exposure, which is what happens a lot with our devices, where delay melatonin production, and that's what it signals to the brain that we're not ready. So every swipe of your phone, every notification, that dopamine hit you get from watching another Instagram reel, all of that reactivate your reward cycles, telling your brain, stay awake, stay awake. There's something more, there's something more, there's something more. And you keep swiping, you keep swiping. It's all of that will keep you awake. So no wonder so many professionals stay in bed scrolling and feeling exhausted, yet they are wired. So one study found that even 30 minutes of screen exposure before bed can delay sleep onset by 1 to 2 hours, particularly in those who are susceptible. All right. So many professionals also develop sleep anxiety. They worry about not sleeping. Or, what am I going to do? And of course, that activates, causes a lot of anxiety, causes a lot of stress, and it's like a vicious cycle. So the solution, as I said, is not to force sleep, but to relax your mind and to retrain your brain, so that you need to go through the cognitive behavioral therapy I talked about, because that will help you associate your bed with rest and not worry. The harder you try to sleep, the harder it will get. Of course, there are some changes in gender, all right, and age as when it comes to sleep. All right, as we get older, our sleep becomes shallower, so our hormones shifts and all that, and all of these things affect the quality of sleep. So women in particular are more susceptible to insomnia, especially as they approach menopause, and that's due to a decline in their estrogen levels, whereas men experience more of sleep apnea. All right, so it's important to understand the sleep apnea is more common in men. Insomnia is more common in women, especially around the menopausal period. All right. And these patterns are very important to understand that they evolve with time. So, when we're sleep deprived, as I said, our brains don't work properly. We then become more reactive, less patient, we're less creative. Our focus on working memory goes down. Decision making is affected. Emotional regulation is affected. We are less patient. We're less empathetic. Okay, so red flags to watch out for that may suggest that your sleep is in trouble. Every time waking up at 2 a.m. All right, the frequent 2 a.m. awakening. Some people say it's when God wakes them up to pray. Well, that may be good, but if God is waking you up every day at 2 a.m. to pray, check it out. You may be over spiritualizing your lack of sleep maintenance. Falling asleep at meetings, especially when you're not leading those meetings, you're heavily relying on caffeine, or you're having lots of mood swings or fogginess during the day. So if you wake up unrefreshed and you're relying on multiple cups of coffee throughout the day, you're feeling mentally dull in the mid morning, then certainly your sleep cycle is disrupted. So these are not just because, oh, you got a busy life. No, but these are distress signals that your brain is giving to you. So your brain is asking for rest, pretty much. Your brain is asking for rest. Your brain is asking for rhythm. Your brain is asking for recovery. So these are the things that you should watch out for. Watch out for. So breaking the cycle of poor sleep is essential, and that's by prioritizing rest. So what are the key takeaways? Takeaways. Sleep issues are common symptoms of chronic overstimulation. Professionals often trade rest for results, but they lose both. And understanding how your sleep biology works will help you break the cycle. So it's time to break the cycle. So the key message here is that sleep is not wasted time, it's a productive recovery time. So if you learn how to your body and your brain works, you'll be able to use it to repair yourself and you sort of enhance your creativity as much as possible. So, how can we optimize sleep hygiene? That's the next thing I'll talk about. Hopefully, we're going to be wrapping up very soon. Optimizing sleep hygiene. So, sleep hygiene involves training your brain to sleep well. All right, so it's about having daily habits and creating an environment that will help you to sleep naturally and to sleep deeply. So we need to create those habits, okay? And matters because small habits will result in big impacts. Okay, so sleep hygiene is about sending consistent cues to your brain when you eat, when you move, when you see light, when you would rest, so that it's as predictable as possible. That would strengthen your circadian rhythm. All right. So when those cues are chaotic everywhere, you're having late dinner tonight, you are exposing yourself to blue light at 10 o'clock, you have a regular bedtime, you sleep on Monday at 6 p.m., on Tuesday at 10 p.m., on Wednesday at midnight, and then you're awake at 2 a.m. on Thursday, and there's just chaos. Your brain becomes confused about when to rest. And when there's confusion about that, you're going to struggle. So it's very important to understand that sleep hygiene is about sending consistent cues to your brain, all right, about when you eat, when you move, your exposure to light, and all that. So that's what this is all about, all right. And it's important. So the four key pillars of sleep hygiene is number one, to have a consistent rhythm, all right. You need to optimize your environment, you need to find ways to calm your mind and have a balanced lifestyle. Rhythm, environment, calmness, and balance, all right. So let's quickly go through each of those pillars. All right. Consistent rhythm. Consistent rhythm. All right, that's very essential. Having a consistent rhythm is super essential. So you need to keep a regular sleep-wake cycle. All right. As I said to you, the body's biological clock, the suprachiasmatic nucleus in the brain, all right, is triggered by exposure to light, and it thrives on routine. So when your sleep time is irregular, it will confuse your body clock, it will confuse your hormones, and it will make it harder for you to fall asleep or feel alert in the morning. So keeping the same schedule, even on weekends, would teach your brain when to release melatonin and when to boost alertness. So particularly particularly if you're struggling, you keep that in mind that it's important for you to have a regular sleep wake cycle. All right, even on weekends, consistency compounds, and consistency will help you break that habit, particularly if you're having problems with sleep. So have a schedule, don't just be chaotic. What do I do in the first few hours of wakefulness? Okay, I wake up, I do my exercise, I have a cold bath, I expose myself to light, whatever you want to do, or have a morning coffee. You've got to be consistent. And when you go to bed, your brain loves consistency. So go to bed and wake up at the same time every day. Of course, it may not be possible every single day, but as much as you can. Morning light is medicine. Light is the strongest signal. Listen to me again. Let me say this again. Light is the strongest signal for your brain's internal clock. If you've got a circadian rhythm problem, you've got a jet lag problem, you've got a shift work problem, all right, you must understand this. Light is the strongest signal for your brain's internal clock. If your brain is not knowing when to shut down and when everybody's awake is when your eyes are open and you're like, oh God, am I becoming a wizard or a witch? No. Light is powerful. Exposure to natural light in the first 30 minutes of waking up suppresses melatonin. If you wake up in the morning and you're not feeling it, you're feeling, oh, all right. When you wake up in the morning, within the first half an hour, try exposing yourself to natural light. One way of doing that is to go out for a morning walk. And when you're doing that morning walk, as the sun rises, all right, the light that comes from that blue yellow corridor is so powerful that it stimulates, is the most powerful trigger for cortisol release in the brain when you look at light. All right. So if you cannot look at light, maybe you live in a unit where you don't have windows that you can expose yourself to, or you cannot go out like me. I don't like walking in the morning. I just stay in my house on my treadmill. Then you can expose yourself to light. Put on the light and just let there be light. Morning light is powerful, especially when you just wake up. All right. Morning light is powerful when you just wake up. All right, so it's very important for you to understand this. Um, so 10 to 15 minutes of morning sunlight anchors your circadian rhythm, very essential. All right. So what about evening routine as well? All right. We're talking about rhythm, having a rhythm. So your evening routine is also important. Sleep doesn't just begin the moment you close your eyes and then you just begin to sleep. No, sleep begins, 1 hour before bedtime. So up to 1 hour before bedtime, sleep begins. So sleep doesn't just begin the moment you close your eyes. I'm going to bed, I close my eyes. Some people are so blessed that they have very, very, very low sleep latency that it's just very easy for them to just close their eyes and sleep. No, sleep doesn't begin the moment you close your eyes. The process of sleep begins 1 hour before bedtime. So for those who are here who struggle with sleep, if you've got insomnia, then 1 hour before your bedtime is when you have to start getting yourself ready for sleep. Dim your lights. All right. Change your LED lamps in your homes, in your bedroom, if you're in the bedroom. All right. Dim the lights at night. If you don't need all the lights on, switch off the lights you don't need on. Switch off the screens that you don't need on. Check on your TVs. Most smart TVs now have blue light night mode. Make sure that after 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock on your TV, the night mode goes on, because with the night mode, then blue lights are gone. All right. And then do some stretching, read a book, check a journal, pray, reflect. There's a lot you can do to create the mood, set the mood at least an hour before you go to bed. The goal is to send a signal to your nervous system that it is safe to slow down. You need to send a signal to your brain. It is safe to slow down. It's now time to shut down. Without this, your brain will just stay in that tax mode and not in that rest mode. So create a 30 to 60-minute wind down ritual. Very essential. All right. Pillar two, optimize your environment. Okay. cool, dark, quiet room. Okay, between 18 to 20 degrees. A cool room helps. Your body temperature naturally drops at night, and within the first 1 or 2 hours of sleep, your body temperature drops by 1 to 2 degrees. So if the room is hot, you want to sleep, but everywhere is so hot, it's not going to happen. All right. So your body temperature naturally drops at night. All right. And you must understand that. And so that drop in body temperature, all right, would help you initiate sleep. So a cool room helps with that process. Even a small light, can suppress melatonin. So that's why you have to keep your room as dark as possible. All right. And if you live in a noisy area, you can use white noise, because white noise helps to stabilize brainwave patterns. So for some people who struggle with sleeping, one of the things you could do is to get some light music, or even just play white noise on your device, or find something to just help simulate you know that environment, like the brainwave patterns. So a quiet background as much as possible, or white noise if your area is noisy. So no light leakage, minimal noise. Okay, make your bedroom a sleep zone. Your brain forms associations. If you answer emails or watch TV in the bed, your brain will link your bed with alertness. Don't take work to your bedroom. Even if you're having an argument with your husband or wife, don't take your work to your bedroom, okay? Leave it outside. If you're answering emails and watching TV in the bed, your brain will link that with alertness. Reserve your bed for two things: sleep and intimacy. Did you get that? Reserve your bed for two things: sleep and intimacy, especially if you are struggling with all the things I've talked about: sleep apnea, insomnia, sleep fragmentation, jet lag problems, or circadian rhythm problems, or chronic stress, burnout. If you're struggling with any of those things, then my advice to you would be that you reserve your bed for two things: sleep and intimacy. When you lie down, let your brain know that shutdown time. It's time to power down. We're not going to be doing anything else. All right. So be disciplined. Be disciplined. If you have to put your phone away, put your phone away, but remember that your ritual starts up to 1 hour before sleep. So getting ready for bed takes about an hour. All right. Start 1 hour before bed. Make sure you're getting ready. And in fact, if you want to be disciplined enough, I would suggest that, especially with light exposure, start from 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., meaning you're getting back from work, the house is already setting the mood for sleep. You are minimizing the exposure to light so that you are allowing melatonin to rise naturally without needing to take a pill. And that's just going to set the mood for you to get into that sleep zone. All right. So make your bedroom a sleep zone. Train your brain. Bed is rest, not work. Number three, calm mind. All right. Quiet your mind before bed. Anxiety and rumination are major sleep killers. Sleep requires a quiet mind. All right. And one way of dealing with this will be mindfulness, breathing exercises. One of the things you can do with breathing exercises, and you can actually do that, it's very powerful, is to inhale, double inhale and then exhale. That's very similar to the psychological sigh. When we sigh, hmm, all right. So if you try to do that over and over again, you'll find it powerful tool. It's a powerful tool for distressing. All right, for de-stressing. Okay. Um, Journaling is also powerful. Keeping a gratitude journal, praying, singing, those are things you can do. Light worship, those are things you can do that just will help calm you down. So try to quiet your mind, and some of these practices are things that you have to do over and over again for you to get used to them. So these practices will shift your nervous system from the fight flight response to the calm mode. So very essential that you keep this in mind. As I said, digital detox. So remember the blue light problem. I talked about the blue light. All right, so keep that in mind. I don't want to overemphasize this. So especially from 11 p.m. to 4 a.m., make sure that your overhead lights, try to avoid bright overhead lights, okay? And remember that light sensitivity is worse at night. So at night, your retina is actually super sensitive, very sensitive to light. So if you're exposing yourself to blue light at night, your brain would easily pick it up because the retina picks it up, sends it to the brain, and the brain delays melatonin. All right. And so you just find that that's a problem, and you delay that more and more. All right. So consider blue light blockers. As I said, consider blue light glasses, filters. Use your night mode on your devices, or just completely stop using the screen 60 minutes before. If you can't stop using your screen 60 minutes or 1 hour before sleep, then get a blue light filter or night mode. Okay. So mental offloading, write it down. Write it down. Most people can't sleep because their mind is busy. If you cannot sleep and your mind is busy, get a notepad before you sleep and just write down your thoughts. Offload it. You see, the act of writing your thoughts, all right, particularly for the next day's priorities, tells your brain it can let go, and it reassures your brain that nothing will be forgotten. So that simple ritual of writing, all right, not typing, don't type, all right, get a notepad and just write. Journaling is so powerful. All right, what is that thing that is on your head that is just going around? It may be the way you feel, it may be the way you feel that someone has spoken to you, or what, it may be a deep hole. Just write it down. By writing it down, you're actually allowing your brain to release it. It's a ritual, but that ritual can actually reduce the cognitive arousal and help accelerate sleep onset. So the last pillar there I'm rounding up is a balanced lifestyle. Okay. So move, eat, drink, and do that smartly. Exercise improves deep sleep. So have time for exercise. Let that be part of your personal protocol throughout the day. All right. Have time for exercise. You can't be sedentary all day. And you're sedentary all day, you're exposed to blue light, you drink a lot of coffee, and you think that you are just going to miraculously sleep. All right. No, exercise, very essential. Avoid caffeine after midday as much as possible. Some people still can sleep even if they have coffee at night. Some people can drink coffee at any time. It's just the way they're wired. But for the majority of people, after 12 o'clock, or maybe, yeah, after 12 o'clock, just minimize it, to be honest. Of course, limit alcohol, or do not drink before bed as well, because that can be a problem. So make sure your food is nutritious, tryptophan. You can kind of get that in bananas, oats, one milk, almonds, leafy greens. You get that. Very helpful. Magnesium, very helpful. Magnesium is helpful for cramps, for migraines, help the muscles to relax. It's really, really helpful. Vitamin B6 too, but don't overdo vitamin B6, because vitamin B6 can, when you take excessive vitamin B6, it can affect your nerves and cause, nerve pain and nerve problems. So, but these are nutrients that you can do. So, heavy spicy meals at night can raise your body temperature and delay sleep. I cannot sleep, but every night is pepper soup. I cannot sleep every night. It's hot. Your wife will cook soup, but you will have to have 10 gallons of Cameroon pepper on top, and then you are sweating like a Christmas goat, cleaning your sweat and everything. You say you cannot sleep. You will not sleep. All right. How will you sleep when you're having such heavy spicy meals? All right. Because of course you are elevating your body temperature. All right. Remember that 1 hour before sleep, you want to cool your temperature down as much as possible, because the optimal temperature, ambient temperature that will facilitate sleep, that would usher you into that sleep, is 18 to 20 degrees. So you have to be intentional. I'm saying this particularly for you, that, for professionals who are on this call who are struggling with sleep. The majority of people who are here may just find that they sleep easily, there's no problem, and most of these things may not apply to you. But for those of you who struggle, you have to be intentional about this. Control your environment, calm your mind, have your rituals, and be intentional about creating habits that will facilitate sleep. Power naps are also powerful. Yeah. So power naps, they are a secret weapon. All right. A 10-20 minute nap will boost alertness and creativity, will boost focus, and it will not affect your night time. So during the day, it's okay to have 10 to 20 minutes power naps. They are very helpful. 10 to 20 minutes power naps can be helpful. But when your nap is more than 30 minutes, all right, all right, when your nap is more than 30 minutes, all right, you are getting into trouble. All right, because what will happen is that your brain will now get into what we call sleep inertia. The longer the nap, the deeper the sleep, and then you get into what we call sleep inertia. And that's a foggy feeling when has it happened to you before, where you just have a quick nap and you cannot wake up? Like you wake up and you feel worse than you were before. You've done it too much. All right, you've done it too much. So 10 to 20 minutes, set your alarm, get up. All right. But if you're getting on 30, 40 minutes, all right. Yeah, I see Dr. Sam. Thank you, Dr. Sam. Dr. Sam does a lot of naps. I guess you have experience. So you said yes. you know all those all those power naps, 30, 40 minutes, you're like, you wake up and you're like, oh my God, why did I? You'll be worse off. You are better off just not having a nap than having a 40, 50-minute nap that is now like, you wake up, your body is so heavy, you're foggy, you can't even make so that's very important for you to understand. So power naps. The other thing that I would also recommend are non-sleep deep rest. Non-sleep deep rest, so powerful. You can do that for 10 to 20 minutes, and it's very important actually for people who are learning new habits. It's very powerful for neuroplasticity. All right, so if you're trying to form a new habit and you are not a spring chicken, you are not a teenage person or a young child, like let's say you are 30, 40, 50, and you're learning a new language, or you're learning a new equipment, or you're learning new software, or starting a new program, then rest and exercise. 30 minutes of, you know, exercise, zone 2 cardio exercise every day with adequate sleep will have to be part of your personal protocol if you're going to be able to form new networks in your brain and quickly retain, especially if you're a much older person. All right, young children sleep anyway. Most young children sleep 8, 10, 11, 12 hours. There's a reason why babies sleep almost throughout, because throughout, as they are sleeping, they are forming new connections, they are learning. They wake up 6, 7, 8 hours, they sleep, that's just the truth. So neuroplasticity is so rampant in the first 2 decades of life that sleep occurs naturally. Once you feel sleepy, they don't have, but as you get older, that's where the problem is. So you're an executive, you're 45, you are changing career. Artificial intelligence has redirected your purpose, not necessarily your purpose, but has moved you, and you're trying to learn a new course, and you're going to school, and you're like, adult education is not easy. It's because you are not sleeping. Adult education, you can redirect adult education to work for you by having good sleep, by having good exercise. All right. Exercise and sleep, because exercise stimulates what we call the brain derived neurotrophic factor, which helps to produce new neurons. So you cannot learn properly if you are not exercising. So if you are learning something new, so let's say you want to learn Spanish, all right, make sure you have exercise in your protocol and make sure you have sleep. And if you cannot have the power naps, you can have non-sleep deep rest. It's very powerful for neuroplasticity. That means you are just lying down calmly, all right, and you are not sleeping, but you are resting. Deep breathing, a lot of deep breathing, and you can stay there 10, 20 minutes. All right, just relaxing. It's a very good circuit breaker, helps to calm down. It can help you calm down, and you can actually do a lot of breathing exercises in that time frame. It's also very helpful as a mindful a tool for mindfulness. Okay, so you should have a sleep action plan. So tonight, for example, go to bed at a set time, dim your lights early. All right, keep your devices out of the bedroom. Make sure you reflect or pray before you sleep. So you should have that. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. Oh, don't say Dr. Niyi has come with this sleep message. Now I'm going to overwalk. I'm going to overhaul my life. No, no, no. You don't have to change everything altogether. Okay. You've got to start with one small change at a time. Dim your lights earlier. Fix your bedtime. Write down your thoughts as you go to bed. All right. Make small adjustments, and each of those small adjustments will teach your brain it's time to rest. All right. The reward is that you will have a sharper focus, you feel better, your immune system will be better, and every single day you will slowly get better. So, final thought: rest is your new high performance habit. Sleep is not the absence of productivity. No, sleep is the foundation of productivity. True performance is not just about doing more and more and more, it's about recovering better. True performance is not about doing more, it's recovering better. So when you prioritize sleep, you don't lose time. No, you don't. You will gain clarity, you will have more creativity, you'll be more resilient. So remember that your brain does its best work. Your brain does its best work when you are sleepy and unconscious. So tonight, if it's morning for you tonight, for those of us in the evening tonight, the smartest thing you can do for yourself, for your future self, is simple: go to bed. And go to bed relaxed, go to bed in a nice, decent way. All right. Well, thank you so much for that. I would rest my case there. That's the end of my webinar. 80 slides. Wow, 80 slides. I have to tell you guys that this is not my best self. The last 48 hours has been physically demanding for me. So I need sleep tonight. I need sleep. I think, yeah, I'm sleep deprived. Can you imagine? I'm talking about sleep and I'm sleep deprived. But don't worry. I know about sleep. I know what to do tonight to get myself refreshed and relaxed. So, um, I'll just take a couple of questions. So you can put up your questions and then we'll just get on with some of the questions and we'll go on from there. So, Anu, can you just put up the questions on the screen for me? Um, I know that there are a couple of questions. Um, and if you have any question, please put it up there. Whether you're watching on YouTube, LinkedIn, and all that. So you got to look for the comment and put the comment on the screen so I can see them. I can read them. I'm not sure whether she's there. uh, Someone just sent me a text. Take time to sleep. Don't worry, I'll sleep. Alrighty. Someone said, "Oh yes, a question. Dr. Ni, is there another common mechanism that blocks adenosine?" Yes, receptors. Well, yeah. So there are drinks or natural sources like some teas that contain chemicals that can stop adenosine. So there's some green black teas that can do that, just like coffee. Dark chocolate can do that as well, particularly chocolate that has theobromine in it. It can block adenosine and all that. So people do that sometimes. And there are some other natural supplements that are non-caffeine based supplements that can also do something do similar thing. Creatine, for example, creatine that people use for building energy and for muscle can also do that as well. So those are examples. Tea, guarana, creatine. They are non-coffee options that people can use. I would not recommend doing those except maybe during daytime, for example, if you just want to boost your focus and get yourself into the performance mode, then yes, green tea, black tea, chocolate can do that. Just make sure that you watch your calories. All right. So someone says, does sleep paralysis occur when people struggle to get out of REM sleep state? Absolutely, yes. And it's a sleep disorder. So sleep paralysis occurs when people get out of the REM stage, all right, but the paralysis does not wear off. So remember, in the REM stage of sleep, all right, it starts within the first 90 minutes of sleep, and then it gets longer and longer in the second half of sleep. And when you're in the REM stage of sleep, that's where the dreaming occurs, that's where your memories are consolidated, and that's where your emotions are regulated. For some people during that stage of sleep, usually for all people, our bodies are paralyzed. The only muscle that really acts is the diaphragm that helps us to breathe properly. But for people with sleep paralysis, and I can tell you, sleep paralysis for the people that I've seen, I got a couple of patients with sleep paralysis. It can be quite like scary for them. So pretty much they get into a dream state. They wake up from a dream, but they cannot move. Body is completely paralyzed. It's like you are awake and you are fully awake and you are awake, but your body is paralyzed. You can't move any muscle in your body, and the paralysis will slowly wear off over time. But it can be quite scary. So most of the people that I've seen who have had it are like, wow, like they're scared about this, you know. Yeah. So and there are also sleep hallucinations that can occur. We have what we call hypnagogic and hypnopompic hallucinations. You don't need to remember those names, but those are also variations of REM sleep that can invade into wakefulness. So some people, as they get into sleep, they start to hallucinate. They start to see people around. They're like dreaming before they dream, all right, or when they're waking up they hallucinate, and the hallucination is you perceiving something, perceiving either by hearing or seeing or feeling something that is not real. All right, so that can also happen. um Another question here. I'm really not having good sleep cycle every day. Please, what can I do? Listen to the webinar. That's the whole point. Next question. That's, I've talked about the different things you can do. Remember the four pillars of sleep hygiene. I've talked about your environment. I've talked about light. I've talked about the mood. I've talked about a lot of things. And I've talked about medical conditions like sleep apnea. If you're a snorer, if you're a man over the age of 40, you snore, you feel foggy during the day, go get a sleep study. If you live in Australia, you have no excuse. Go to your GP. You can get a bulk billed sleep study. Even if you have private insurance, you'll be able to get it covered. Anywhere you are in the world, sleep studies should not be too difficult to get if you're a snorer. All right, because sleep apnea is associated with stroke, heart attacks, high blood pressure, diabetes, all kinds of stuff. So don't tolerate sleep apnea. All right, don't tolerate it at all if that's what you have there. Does taking naps disrupt healthy sleep habits? No, patterns? No, taking naps will not do that. But it depends on the purpose of your nap. I've talked about power naps, 10 to 20 minutes. It can be very helpful. All right, particularly if you're trying to generate insights. All right, but if you want to take a long nap, like 1 or 2 hours of sleep, some people do that. In Europe, in certain countries in Europe, France, and all that, they have siestas culturally. At the end of the day, it all adds up. So I don't think it's a necessarily big problem. So, what is the ideal recommended hours of healthy sleep for the average adult? 7 to 9 hours. 7 to 9 hours. Okay, so you get it close to 8 hours and 8 hours. But a lot of people get 6 hours and all that. But yeah, from time to time, you should aim to get between 7 to 9 hours. How can one decipher the accuracy of their dreams? I'm going to have another webinar on dreams. I'm not going to go into dreams now because I know there are a lot of pastors and spiritual people here. All right. Not all dreams are a message from God. All right. Not all dreams are a message from God. You be eyeing a gay lady all day and then you go to sleep, you see her in your dream and you say that is a message from God. It could just be your, brain consolidating the memory of what you have seen in the day. All right. So I'll talk about dreams at another time. It's too I don't want to get into that now. I don't want to get sucked into that wormhole. Um, Question is from Faye Shire here. I see emphasis was more on not taking coffee after midday. What's the impact of other coffee-containing substances like Cola, Coca-Cola, and others? It's the same thing. It's the same thing, okay? But of course, the concentration of caffeine um, in those sorry, can you put up that question again? The concentration of caffeine in those substances may not be as high as when you have brewed coffee. But there are other energy drinks, Red Bull, V, and all those other drinks that have very high levels of caffeine. I would also deliver the same thing. So, yeah, it's not really about coffee in particular. You can have decaffeinated coffee for those who want to have the feel and the smell of coffee without actually being exposed to caffeine. You can get decaffeinated coffee and still drink it anytime. All right, move on to the next one. I'll probably take one or two more. Why do some people snore and some do not? It's the airway. It's the airway. So some people have a naturally smaller airway. So there's a score that the anesthesiologists would often use to score how narrow your airway is. It's called the Malampati score. So some people have a naturally small airway, so that when they put on weight, all right, they obstruct their airway. Their tongue falls back, blocks the airway completely, and then they snore. All right, and it starts from snoring, okay, which we call upper airway resistance. If the snoring gets worse to the point where they completely obstruct the airway, then they stop breathing. All right, but not all people do it, and not all people that snore are, you know, overweight. Some people are skinny and they still snore. All right, so just understand that. Please, sir, my wife is pregnant. Oh, congratulations. And she snores lately. What can we do? Well, let her lie on her side. I'm not sure whether the pregnancy is contributing to that. I would not say you should do anything. If she's pregnant at the moment, just wait for the delivery and all that. And, after that, you can sort of deal with that, okay? It could be that the pregnancy is also contributing to the snoring and, fluid retention that happens in pregnancy, blah, blah, blah. So, congratulations, but I'd say just chill and let that pass before you do anything about it. Here we testify. If someone is having chronic eye twitches and muscle spasms and they practice non-sleep depressed, but they are not seeing results, what should they do? Chronic eye twitching. Actually, sleep deprivation is the most common cause of eye twitching and muscle spasms. Now, if it's not a movement disorder, that requires treatment with things like Botox and all that. I would say that if it's chronic means that it's been going on for years or for a long time. If you're having eye twitching and muscle spasm for a long time, you should see your doctor and probably see a specialist like me, a neurologist, okay, so that we can properly diagnose that condition and treat it appropriately. Non-sleep depressed may be helpful, but if it's not, if it's chronic, it probably wouldn't help. You probably would need Botox or some form of medications to stop the twitching and all that. But sleep deprivation or not having enough sleep is a common cause of eye twitching. Dry eyes too. If your eyes are dry, so it's a common cause of eye twitching and all that. So next one, please. Is there any more question? Um, I think we're exhausted all the questions. Fantastic. Oh, okay. Fantastic. All righty. So, well, thank you all for being part of this webinar. It's been a great pleasure having you guys. I hope you got it value in a way. Uh, I've delivered the webinar in an unusual format, but I hope you got something out of it. All right. Someone said, when is the best time to shut down? I think now is the best time to shut down. Now is the best time to shut down. I feel the need for sleep, so I am shutting down now, right now. So thank you guys for being here. I hope you've gotten value. Please go back to watch this webinar. All right, listen to it, watch it, see how it, and see how you can apply some of those things into your life. And I wish you the very best. So it's been a great pleasure having you. And hopefully, when we invite you again for something like this, I'm sure you'll turn up. Okay. So thanks to all of you. Thanks for being here, and God bless you.